All right, to design the game board, I'm going to start off in Fireworks. When I start off in Fireworks, I'm going to create a new document. One of the things I want to make sure I do is I set these units to inches. I want to designate the size of my board in inches. I'm going to make this one 24 wide. Then I'm going to go with 22 wide based on the size of my picture, 18 high, and a resolution of 100 pixels per inch. If I do this, it makes it real easily visible because a lot of the fireworks measurements are in pixels. So if it's 100 pixels per inch, I need half an inch. That's 50 pixels. It's real easy to do that math. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Here's the size of my game board. If you have your grid turned on, it may look like mine and be really, really super tiny. So I'm going to go to grid and I'm going to go to edit grid. And I'm just going to change mine to be a 1-inch grid. So that's going to be 100 by 100. There's my 1-inch grid. I'm going to go ahead and start out with the background image that I had downloaded. It's this island map here, and I'm going to drop it in. I know it's a little small. You do want to try to start with the item or the image as large as possible, okay? You don't want to have to scale it up a ton, but you do need to scale it some. You may need to scale it some to get everything to fit. So I'm going to scale mine up a little bit. Yours being your nice final project. I'm going to go ahead and accidentally cut part of that off. I'd probably change my size a little bit. Actually, if you need to fix your size, here's how you do that. If you click off of everything, under canvas size, you can increase it if you need to. I'm going to do that and center up my picture. Actually, I didn't need the full inch. Only really needed about a half of that. So once you get this all centered up and sized up and correct, I would come up here over to the Layers tab, and right under where it has the little pencil column, you lock it. So that way you don't accidentally move that as you're trying to move other stuff around, because that's really annoying. Now, if I wanted a boat as part of this island, maybe you're arriving at this island, I'm going to call it Mystery Island. That's the name of the game, okay? And you're going to have to go on an adventure here. You're probably going to show up in a boat. So I already found my boat picture. Then when I bring it in, obviously I'm going to resize this, but you might also notice that we have the problem of there are two different colors and sections here that I don't want. So I don't want this black bar at the bottom. I don't want this blue background. One way to get rid of things is to use the marquee or the lasso tool to actually highlight around them and press delete. To get rid of them, I just click once to get out of there. So I deleted that extra section right there. Now this is all the same blue. This magic wand tool makes this really nice. So if I get the magic wand tool and I click on this blue, it's going to highlight all that blue. Now if there's some variation in color here, I may need to mess with this tolerance to get it to circle all the background color, and then push delete. I'm going to do the same thing down here. And lastly, I'm going to do this little section between the sail and the ship. I'm going to click once again in the same area to turn that marquee off. Now I'm going to go back in with the scale tool on this. Oh, as you can see, it's actually still highlighted, so I'm going to have to push escape. I come back with the scale tool on this, scale the ship down some, and go ahead and put it in place. This is how I can add images. And again, it's best to add images if you can have them be over a solid background. It's even better if you can find .pngs where the background is already removed. You would be able to skip that step. Now, if you played board games before, there's usually the title of the game on the board somehow. I can grab my text tool and type it out, whatever the name of the game is. Okay? And as you can see, it's pretty small. It's not really the way I want that to stay. One of the things I can do is I can come in here and pick a different font. I'm going to actually pick one that I use a little frequently so that it stands out pretty well. I'm also going to enlarge it. This slider allows the text to get bigger. You'll also notice it does not stand out a whole lot, okay, especially if I put this up over here, okay? By the way, 96 is not your max. If you want to do something else, you can type a number in to make it even larger, okay? Underneath filters, I can drop filters down, and some of these bevel features, these outer bevels, can make that text really stand up nice, okay? So I can actually put like a white bevel on it to really make it look like it's kind of three-dimensional and standing out. Some of the other things I could do to give it a similar effect, if you don't like the hard line of a bevel, by the way, you can just turn it, you can edit it or turn it off, is I can do a glow. If I do a glow, and again, I'm going to pick white because it makes it stand out over the dark blue, okay? This I can get a little bit more of a fuzzy feel to it. All of these also work on images around the edges, so you can use those as well. Now, in the game, I'm probably going to have to move something, go somewhere, do something. So there's usually two options that people use, a grid or a path. I'm going to start out with the grid. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see I have my grid that's helping me. Actually, I'm going to go back out to being at the full size so I can see everything. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come up to view and grid, and I'm going to tell it snap to grid. So that way it's trying to attach things that I do to the grid itself. I'm going to get my line tool. I'm going to draw a line as close to this grid as possible, even hanging off the edge a little bit. If I hold shift, it will be a perfectly horizontal line. Now, if it's only 1 pixel thick, it will hide behind this grid here. So you may want to change that, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and just so that everybody can see it, I'm going to change it to be 3 pixels thick. And I'm going to change it to be red. That's probably not the best color for this. I might use a white or a light gray, but that way you can, in the video, it's going to be easier for that to stand out. I'm going to now zoom in over here. You probably don't want to sit there having to draw this line time and time and time again. It's going to be nice if we can more duplicate these lines. If I hold Alt on my keyboard, and click on it, I drag out a copy. And you'll notice when I got close to the grid line, it jumped right over. So I can keep doing this and just line it one by one all the way down. Of course, I'd have to do the same thing in the other direction. I can also move this one over. I can also select by holding shift, I can select multiple of these lines. I'm going to now hold Alt, grab the top one, and bring this down in a group. So after you build a grouping of them, you can start copying and paste, or moving them as a group. If I zoom out a little more, you can now see how I'm going to have those grids. And I could move across the grids, take over a grid, depending on what you needed. Okay? Now, if instead of to create a path in your game, you can use the shapes. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to go down by my ship there, because that's where I'm starting if I'm getting off the boat at Mystery Island here. I'm going to go ahead and pick the shape tool. I'm going to have the fill in be yellow and the border be black. You can obviously mess with those colors, but this is the fill, this is the border. And again, just like line thickness, we can set how thick the border is. I can grab my rectangle tool and I can draw a square. Now, down here, it tells me my square is 100 by 120. If I make it 100 by 100, I know that is a 1-inch square because of the settings I set earlier. This may also be a time that you don't necessarily want your grid there, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my grid off. I'm going to put this as basically the starting square coming right off the boat if I'm going to have them follow a path, okay, or multiple paths. I'm going to again use my Alt drag out trick. I'll also tell you if you hold Shift at the same time, it will only let you drag out changing one direction. I'm going to do the same thing vertically to start going up, and so on and so forth. And I can build my path using Alt and Shift, move by move by move by move. You may look at it and go, but I want these to not be exactly the same color. That's easy. Instead of redrawing them and resizing them, I'm going to make the copy as the yellow copy, and then I'll just come back later, click on it, and change them to be whatever color I need them to be for the game to function. If I want to add text, I can get my text tool again. That's way too big a text. I'm going to go back to like a 24 size text. I'm going to click and type start. I would really tell you that it's easiest to make the text, then position it and size it, adjust color, adjust alignment, all that sort of stuff. And just in case you wanted to, if I get the scale tool and I stay outside the scale tool, I can also turn my text. So if you want to have angled text, you can do that as well.